The heat was brutal. August in the Nevada wilderness was no joke, and the sun bore down mercilessly on the jagged rocks, scorched earth, and twisted juniper trees that peppered the vast expanse of the Red Pine Conservation Range. Senior Forest Ranger Adam Gaines had always loved this land, its brutal beauty, its raw silence, its untamed resilience. But now, bound to a tree with coarse rope biting into his wrists and his lips cracked from dehydration, he wasn't sure the land loved him back. 30 hours. That's how long he estimated he'd been left here, abandoned by poachers after they smashed his radio, emptied his canteen, and tied him to a tree like some old cowboy tale gone wrong. His throat burned. His wrists were raw. He'd screamed for hours the first night until his voice died in his throat. No one had come. The buzzards would eventually. He knew that. At 46, Adam was no stranger to the dangers of his job. For over a decade, he'd patrolled protected lands like this, pushing back against those who saw wild creatures and ancient forests as nothing more than dollar signs. But the wild Mustangs, those had always been different. To Adam, they were more than just horses. They were symbols of freedom, of endurance, of something primal and sacred that no man had a right to own. You'll have plenty of time to think about what happens to people who meddle in other men's business. The leader of the poachers had sneered before leaving him. By the time anyone finds you, the only thing left will be bones. Now, with the sun nearing its zenith and the ground shimmering with heat, Adam fought to stay awake. He knew sleep would mean death. He felt himself slipping, the pain in his wrists dulling into a distant throb. That was when he heard a low rhythmic sound, steady, growing louder. At first, he thought it was the pulse in his head. Then it came again. Hoofbeats. Dozens of them. Through eyes swollen and half-closed, Adam turned his head as best he could and saw them. A herd of wild Mustangs. They crested the ridge like spirits from a fever dream, sunlight catching their manes and tails as they moved in unison, 15 or so, led by a towering black stallion with one white sock on his foreleg. Adam had seen him before and even had a nickname for him in his report's shadow. Under normal circumstances, the herd would have avoided a human by a wide margin. But Adam, exhausted, sunbaked, and reeking of sweat and blood, didn't look or smell much like a threat. To his astonishment, they didn't bolt. Instead, they slowed. "Go on," he rasped, barely audible. "Nothing to see here." But Shadow didn't go. The stallion took a few cautious steps forward, sniffed the air, and blinked at Adam with dark, intelligent eyes. One of the younger Maras followed, her dun coat sleek and taut with pregnancy. They formed a half-circle around him, cautious but curious. Adam's breath caught as Shadow stepped closer. The stallion lowered his head and sniffed at Adam's boots, his velvet muzzle brushing dirt. Adam could see each whisker twitch. "I don't suppose you know how to undo knots," he whispered with a dry chuckle. Shadow lifted his head. He didn't flinch. He didn't bolt. And then stayed. As the afternoon sun stretched shadows across the desert floor, the herd spread out, grazing casually but never straying far. Shadow remained nearby, watching Adam with what felt like more than animal curiosity. As if waiting. The ranger's vision blurred. He lost consciousness, then drifted back. Tom twisted. When he next stirred, Shadow was gone. Now he was back, pawing at the ground 50 yards off. Adam watched through a haze as the stallion dug with powerful hooves, churning dust. Horses dug sometimes for water, out of impatience, to claim territory. But this was different. Focused. Purposeful. "What are you doing?" Adam croaked. Shadow lowered his muzzle to the disturbed soil. Then, ears flicking, he stepped back. And then miraculously a shimmer. A pool. A tiny one, but growing. A spring. Adam blinked, thinking it a hallucination. But no. Water. Real, cool, mineral-rich water. The herd drank deeply. Then came something he would never forget. The pregnant mare stepped away from the spring, her muzzle dripping, and walked straight toward him. She stopped a few feet from his bound form, lowered her head, and extended her muzzle toward his face. And then, with delicate intent, she touched her wet nose to his lips. Moisture. Real moisture. Tears stung Adam's eyes. "Thank you," he whispered. One by one, more horses followed. Shadow. A chestnut colt. A gray mare. Each offering drops of water from their muzzles. It was never much, but enough. Enough to give him a few more hours. That night, the desert cold rolled in like a second punishment. Adam, shivering violently, felt the ground pull at him, drag him toward unconsciousness again. But then warmth. Pressure. The dun mare lay down beside him, her flank pressed to his side. Minutes later, 2 more young horses joined, creating a barrier of warmth. Their breathing matched his. Their hearts beat close. Why? He wondered. Why are you helping me? He didn't sleep. He drifted into something between waking and death. Dawn broke. Pale gold light poured across the valley. The horses stirred. Shadow stood high on the ridge again. Alert. Looking east. Suddenly he let out a sharp whinny. 3 times. He ran back down, nosed at Adam's bindings, tugging ineffectually. Then he turned, trotted to the herd, and seemed to confer with 2 younger stallions. There was a flurry of nickers and stamps. Then all 3 bolted over the western ridge. Adam watched them vanish, heart sinking. But part of him hoped, wished. Hours passed. His vision dimmed. The sun rose, fell. He faded in and out. Then voices. Human voices. He forced his eyes open. 2 Park Service jeeps were bouncing across the ridgeline, unbelievably shadow, sweat glistening on his black coat. Adam. It was Levi Barnes, his old partner. They found him. They actually found him. As Levi and another ranger cut his ropes and gave him water, Adam asked, "How did you?" "You're not going to believe it," Levi said. 3 horses came straight up to the station. 1 black, 2 younger ones. Made such a ruckus we thought it was a stampede. Then they ran off and kept looking back like they wanted us to follow. Adam turned toward the ridge. Shadow was there, watching. Still. "I believe you," Adam said. The poachers were found 2 weeks later. But that was never the real story. The real story was the horses. Adam didn't take a desk job. He returned to the field. And 2 months later, on a quiet afternoon, he hiked alone to the ridge near Juniper Pass where the herd often traveled. He found the dun mare in a shaded hollow. She had given birth. A colt. Slender, trembling, with a white blaze on his forehead like the scar Adam carried from childhood. The foal's front leg was twisted, weak. Adam crouched. "I want to help." Slowly, the mare stepped aside. Let him approach. He fitted a soft brace, left supplements, and tagged the foal gently with a GPS collar. Shadow arrived not long after. He didn't threaten. He just stood beside them. Adam nodded. "Thank you." 6 months later, Adam stood in a government conference room presenting data. Video. Testimony. "The herd displays advanced prosocial behavior," he said. "Problem solving. Cross-species communication. Altruism." Skeptics scoffed. But then he played the Fujigia Mustang, alerting rangers to an injured hiker, leading them straight to the man. Again and again, the horses had done this. "You're telling me," one senator said slowly, "that these horses aren't just surviving but helping?" "I'm telling you they're watching, listening, learning." Weeks later, funding was secured. A moratorium on roundups. A new sanctuary. And at the center Shadow's herd. Over the years, the sanctuary grew. Children visited. Scientists came from all over the world. Adam and Dr. Talia Recian, animal cognition expert who had once doubted him, now worked side by side. They got engaged beneath the juniper where he had been tied. The dun mare's colt, named Flint, grew strong. His leg healed. He ran like the wind now. Shadow, older, his mane tinged with silver, still watched from the ridge. Still led the herd. Still approached the visitor platform each morning when the buses came. The world had changed. Laws had changed. But some things hadn't. The horses still ran free. And they still remembered the man who once needed the man who they saved. And every time Adam looked out across the valley and saw Shadow standing tall against the sky, he felt the same thing he'd felt that first time, tied to a tree and thinking he would die. Awe, because what those horses gave him that day wasn't just water. It was grace, trust, a second chance. And in return, he gave them a voice. And maybe, just maybe, that's what they had come for all along.